Hello. So now we're going to talk about toileting techniques. So what does it actually look like when you are pooping on the toilet? No one ever talks about this. No one talks about, how far forward are you leaned? How far backward are you leaned? Is it difficult for you to get it out? Is it way too easy? Like, what do you do? This, I would have to say, is more for someone who struggles with getting the poop out. I have a whole another lecture after this for if you poop way too fast. Either way, all of this is going to be really, really helpful because you want to be efficient with emptying. So I'm going to share my screen about the next handout. Okay, so toileting techniques. So when you poop, I like to remind people that when we are pooping, we are supposed to actually be in the squatting position. So we were not made to be sitting on these high thrones and looking oh so regal when we are pooping. I would say like the third lady. We aren't supposed to look like that lady. We were actually supposed to be in the squatting position, holding onto a tree. I mean, that's how we were made for a long, thousands of years. So as close to that as you can simulate would be in your best interest. Talking about breath is all over, very, very huge again. So using your abdominal muscles is going to be very instinctive. It wasn't until after I had children, I realized how similar having children, like the whole birthing process, is compared to pooping. My second one was a VBAC, so I wasn't prepared. I thought I was going to have another C-section. And the only training that I had in actually having a baby was like Rachel on Friends and just screaming the baby out. So every time if they would say push, I would push. Ah! It hindsight made sense. They're like, every time you scream, that baby comes further up into your body. Well, all my pressure was leaving my body upwards with my breath. You need to be using your breath for you. I don't want you to try to pass out. I don't want you to hold your breath so much that you push, that you pass out, which is called the Valsalva technique. But I do want you to use your breath and hold that air, and then push it down, so that way the poop actually exits out of you. So if you have weakness in your muscles or your organs are falling out, decrease sensation in your pelvis, or if you consistently ignore the urge to go, you will lose that urge, first of all. But you may be straining whenever you have a bowel movement. You are straining if you are holding your breath or taking in a huge gulp of air to hold it, keeping your lips and jaw tensed up tightly, and if you're turning red because of how hard you're pushing. I was traveling recently and was in the airport and was listening to someone else poop as well. And they were having some crazy amount of breath noises. It definitely sounded like they were straining and pushing really, really hard. So it should not be like I don't know, like it shouldn't be that you're straining so hard right here. Whatever is happening here is also happening at your pelvic floor. So if you suffer from TMJ, or you grind your teeth, like especially at night, then it's likely that your pelvic floor is also very, very engaged in not allowing you to empty as well. So if your hemorrhoids are getting worse, or if you're beginning to get some, then you may be straining as well, getting faint while pushing, and not feeling like you completely emptied each time and have to defecate each times a day, multiple times a day. That one, whenever someone tells me that I poop and then like 30 minutes later, I feel like I have to poop again, I usually indicate to them that they may have a rectocele, which is a really scary word for that your bowels are not as high up as they once were, and they're more fallen just closer to the vaginal canal. So whenever the poop comes out or is trying to come out, it's actually falling a little bit forward into the vaginal canal. And so some of the poop is still sitting there after you're done defecating. I have a technique to help with that. It's called splinting. We'll have a whole video about that. So if you are straining or making it harder for yourself to have a bowel movement, then this anus is at the end of this thing. It's taking the brunt end of this. And so it's going to be the thing that has to accommodate all of these pressures. You can have an issue from having no relaxation or coordination of your abdominal muscles, and it has to work harder to get the feces out. Many people have never been taught how to poop, or especially not effectively. So notice what happens when your body, whenever you're having a bowel movement, what's happening at different places at your body. While you're sitting on the toilet, pay attention to the following areas. Your jaw. I want you to be relaxed. I want you to have your teeth not clenched, but not open. But when it closed enough that your tongue is resting on the roof of your mouth. I want you to look at the angle of your hips. So I want you to remember that when you're in a more flexed forward position, like with your hands on your elbows, that your hips are closer to your shoulders, which is the peeing, pooping, sexy time, have a baby position. Think about whether your feet are on the ground. So if you are shorty and your feet are just dangling down there, and so you have to kind of lean forward in order to do that, in order to even have your feet on the ground, or have your toes up, or toes on the ground, heels up, which can also lead to urinary urge. So our calf muscles are greatly related to nervously to our bladder. And if you're having issues with bladder urgency, then just the fact that your feet aren't flat on the ground could make a huge difference. Notice where your arms are. Most people's arms are holding onto their phone. What is your spine doing? Is it slumped over? Is it curved back? Think about your waist, which I never think about my waist, but we'll go over some techniques to remind you about what to do with your waist, belly tension, and actually thinking about your anus. Especially you might have time to think about all of this stuff if you're actually having trouble with going to the bathroom. So 4 main points. Lean forward so that way your elbows have something to rest on, such as your knees. It's also nice to have your phone in front of you and see what's going on Instagram. Support your feet on the floor and use a low stool. The squatty potty is legit. I do not personally own one. They're like $40. I have a toddler stool. The kids keep growing out of the stools, and so then it's in our restroom. A toddler stool is like $10, and a squatty potty is $40. I like both of them because they both don't take up a lot of space. So if your person does not want to use one, it just tucks up underneath the toilet, and it's not inconvenient to have like a kitchen stool. But you could flip over a laundry basket and prop that in front of you. I don't know how convenient that would be to have that in front of your toilet all the time. But these are the same techniques that you could use for going to the restroom for peeing if you like to sit whenever you're peeing. So number 3, push out your belly as if you swallowed a beach ball. So think about, you're not holding your breath, but you are pushing out your belly as to hold all of this pressure. Man, it makes you think about whenever I had Jake. I was letting that beach ball up this way. You should feel a widening at your waist. So pushing out, belly button expands. Number 4, relax and open your pelvic floor muscles rather than tightening around the anus. So I teach people a lot of, in the clinic, synergistic, which means symbiotic. So everything working together in the clinic. It's hard to teach you through this format, but think about everything relaxing and widening and letting the poop out of you. So there are some alternate positions for sitting on the toilet. Sometimes I'll give people all of this information. I'll be like, okay, just think about pooping for the next week. Come back and see me. Tell me what you think. And some people, I'm going to go skip ahead to number 2. Some people have found it better to actually lean back. So actually leaning back on the back of the toilet. And that's just the way that their posture is. So I give them all these cues about bending over and shortening at this anorectal space. There's a muscle that actually lassos around the anus. And the more closer that your knees are to your shoulders, the more relaxed that one position, that one muscle can be. But then if they lean back, well, that's just the way that their tailbone is. A lot of people had tailbone fractures. Some people had that rectocele. So their rectum has already fallen too far forward. And so actually leaning back helps all that poop that's fallen forward to actually stay back in the anal canal. Some people find it more comfortable to raise their hips by putting on the stool and sitting more upright. I still like people to play around with it. It's hard for me without meeting someone to look at their sitting posture and think about how the poop is going to exit their body. So think about if you've had some medical complications that may have changed your posture. So if you have range of motion issues at your back, hip, pelvis, ankle, or knees, it could change how you're defecating. So if you have this crazy knee that you can't you can't bend all the way, so you kind of kick it out whenever you're pooping or peeing or anything, getting in and out of the car, then this might be the problem. Or if you're too short and again, your toes are on the ground, but your heels are not. I like what it's doing at your hips, but I don't like what it's doing at your ankles. And so if you have constipation, this is going to be huge. If you have had a hysterectomy, your bladder, your uterus, and your rectum were all in this space. But if you take one organ out, that space is not just air. Everything else just kind of shifted, which is just fine. It just means that it'll be in your best interest to be efficient when peeing and pooping, so that way you're not straining and pushing all those organs closer to the vaginal canal, because they just have a lot more wiggle room now. So these are 4 more recommendations that I have for going to the bathroom. Sit on the toilet. I know that sounds like duh, but sometimes we're in a public space and we don't want to sit on the toilet. It is nice that a lot of places have those toilet seat covers. So like that way, the paper ones, you can use those. But if you're doing this whole hover thing, like your feet are on the ground and you're kind of bent over and you're just kind of hoping everything lands in the hole, first of all, that's gross. So sit on the toilet. You can't relax in that position. You have one part of your body saying, we're not on the toilet, and another part saying, I'm not relaxed, and all the other parts going, why are we doing this? I want you to actually sit on the toilet. So notice that your hip and angle and spine position are more relaxed, which will allow the anus to relax. The anus was made to hold stuff up. And if it cannot be relaxed, if it is more in a standing position, that's the position we were not made to poop ourselves. So the closer you are to the standing position, the more the anus is going to have to fight to let anything out of it. So remember that whenever you lean forward, you can place your forearms on your knees for support, or thighs for support. Number 2, relaxation suggestions. So we need to breathe in deeply, in through your nose. Oh, I need to say, that says breath. I meant to say breathe. Breathe in through your nose and slowly out your mouth. If you're smelling the roses, and blowing out the candles, and blowing out the candles, to become more aware of your muscles contracting and releasing. Can be really helpful. Pull your pelvic organs in tightly by using the image of holding back gas. Or I think about whenever someone's if someone's gonna put your finger really close to your anus, it kind of makes you go, ooh, remember that's a Kegel, that's a pucker. Wow. You can release these muscles by doing 5 quick of those. I like to think of it as like whenever I am carrying my stress in my shoulders, I actually roll my shoulders. And it's not because my shoulders need that, but because actually elevating them and then relaxing them reminds me at how tense I had them in the first place. So doing that 5 times at your anus or even at your shoulders will help relax that anus as well. Keep your pelvic floor muscles relaxed. Let your belly bulge out. Remember, the digestive tract starts at the mouth and ends at the anal opening. So you have to relax both ends of the tube. Relax your tongue and the roof of your mouth. Keep your teeth separated, and this will help your everything that's happening here is sending signals because it's innervated by the vagus nerve. So that way it'll help you relax down there. I like the next one about trying to, so that's all about relaxation techniques. I was going to say something that I tell people all the time. Oh, I guess it'll come back to me. So now we're back on to, or finally to step number 3, actually emptying and defecating. So keep your pelvic floor and your sphincter relaxed. Don't bulge out your muscles. Make sure the anus is wide. I think that's hard to think about. But if you stick out your belly as if you swallowed a beach ball and then pressing down with that, that will help. So giving out a breath or a grunt, you could change the position. I advise not doing this at the airport. But hindsight, maybe that's what that lady was trying to do. Maybe she was just trying to change her breath. She went through a lot of different changes. Ah, shh, oh, grr. Personally, when I put my hands on my belly and I do all of those positions, so go ahead and do it with me. You're at home, you're alone. Shh, oh, grr. I like shh and grr. I can feel my muscles and my abdomen engage. I can feel all of that press out. Oh, I remembered the thing about relaxation suggestions. The diaphragm is huge part of the pelvic floor or intra-abdominal pressure. A diaphragm and your lungs are at the top. You have your abdominals in the front. You have your spine in the back. You have your pelvic floor muscles at the bottom. If you're having a hard time relaxing, you could release your diaphragm at this moment now too, in addition to throughout the day. Releasing your diaphragm is taking your fingers, kind of tucking your fingertips up under your rib cage. And then as you breathe in, you're fine. And as you breathe out, you're going to run your fingers kind of up under your rib cage. It takes me 3 breaths to get to the whole length of my rib cage. But if your diaphragm is moving, which also has an innervation to the vagus nerve, which made me think of the TMJ, then you're starting the whole central nervous system of helping you defecate, starting here at your rib cage, at your breath, and then all the way down that sympathetic nervous system chain. So number 4, finish. So as you're finishing your bowel movement, you're going to be done. And then it says to pull your pelvic floor muscles up and in. Sure. It misses wiping. So I want you to, as you're pushing, so you're going to finish pushing, and you're going to get the wipe. I personally like baby wipes. Get the wipe, and you're going to wipe all of that. And I like it as everything is out, then you're kind of cleaning all of this. And then you're done wiping and you throw that away. You can push a little bit more and wipe. But I like the next thing. I want you to make sure that everything's up and in. So I use that same wipe and push everything up and in. So that way everything is up where it's supposed to be throughout the day and not hanging out. If you suffer from hemorrhoids, if you suffer from old hemorrhoids, if you think it's a hemorrhoid, but it's probably a rectal prolapse, if you have any type of heaviness at all, even in the front of you. So I don't want you to use the same wipe. So poop has to stay away from pee space or you'll get a UTI. But after you just finished moving everything down, I want you to remember to push everything back up. So they say to actually pull up your pelvic floor muscles. So that would be your Kegels. So think about lifting your anus or like flickering your anus 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was fast. If you could do it that fast, that's really hard. But you could use another clean wipe and you can push everything back up. So vulva, you can push on the outside of the vulva. You're not like pushing on the inside of your vagina. But you can push everything kind of up and you're going to tuck everything back up at the anus. So that way, I like how they put this. This will leave your anus in the proper position rather than it remaining pushed out and down. If your anus stays out and down, it will start to feel as though that is normal, and it will give you incorrect signals about needing to have a bowel movement. If it stays out, then whenever poop finally gets to it, it will rush out. And so the whole next lecture is about what happens if things are starting to rush out and you cannot get there fast enough. So I hope that this was really helpful, especially if you have a desire to have more relaxation whenever you're going to the bathroom. Enjoy yourself. So remember, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Thank you.